What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So, Steve Smith Sr., he was giving his thoughts on this New York Jets versus Buffalo Bills matchup. And surprisingly to me, he ends up being one of my favorite analysts because of how he's able to break down things from his previous player experience. But he leaned heavily in favor of the New York Jets. And, there's a lot of recency bias to this, but he's kind of reviewed things dating back to 2020 or so. So we're at least talking the last two seasons of seeing Josh Allen come out here and dominate the league. And, just going through some of the key offensive position groups, he's sided with the Jets more often than not. In fact, we're 3 out of 3 in this case. So he was asked, and by the way, I'll have the clip in the description for you guys, but he was asked about the quarterback position and where he sees Aaron Rodgers in the hierarchy, being better than or worse than Josh Allen. And generally speaking, he leaned more so towards Rodgers. The reasoning behind it was a little interesting, though. So he mentioned that Josh Allen, with Stephon Diggs, he's been able to accumulate, three plus seasons now of working with him. They're obviously spot on, whereas Aaron Rodgers has only had this offseason, and he's finally getting some top-tier weaponry since his days of being with Devontae Adams. But in terms of being a number one, round one caliber wide receiver, he's never really had that before. So him getting back into the swing of things with a talent like Garrett Wilson, he's kind of betting on the upside there. The fact that the chemistry has already been budding, but the fact that it can get so much better over this next year or two with Aaron Rodgers in town, and hopefully we see that on display, early and often in week one. Then it came to the running back position. Again, he leaned into the Jets, where he mentioned this specifically being what the Bills haven't been able to do as opposed to what the Jets are expected to do. So we know with the Jets, we plan on running the ball. Nathaniel Hackett's offense, they've been heavily favored, running favorites, whether that's in rushing attempts or whether that's them leading the league in rushing in some of those key categories, like obviously converting the touchdowns, etc. We have probably the best 1-2 punch. At least that's the expectation if you leave it up to Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. And then, of course, Michael Carter's no slouch either. And, slotting him into running back 3 should give him even some better opportunities than what he's seen when we thought he could have been a running back 1 caliber player. Buffalo, on the other hand, they've went the Joe Douglas route with exploring every potential option possible to improve the talent in the running back room. Waivers, trades, draft picks, undrafted free agents, etc. They have been unable to craft a running game whatsoever, which has really been the Achilles heel of this team. We know our motto this year is finish. Buffalo might be wanting to think about the same thing, because when they've been able to put opponents away, they've struggled to, right? They've kept guys in games that never should have been around realistically. And I take a look at that Minnesota Vikings game as the key one. Even when you have a talent like Stephon Diggs out there, it hasn't mattered because they've been struggling to lean into being able to bleed out a game or to, consistently continue to pour the points on and stop the opposing team without having to expose Josh Allen to more unnecessary hits by getting him involved in the run game personally. But I think that sums it up the best. Josh Allen has been the run game for this Bills offense for the last 2 to 4 years. So we'll see what happens there. The final group that he was asked about in the short clip was the wide receiver spot, and again he leaned towards the Jets. Now this one's a little bit more interesting, but realistically, if you just look at it on paper, the New York Jets as of right now seem better, between Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard being a solid option. Even we don't love him as the number 2, but still a solid option. You're talking about having a bona fide, slot receiver in Randall Cobb. And then Mecole Hardman's kind of an X factor just because of his speed alone and what he can mean to this offense. We're at least 4 deep, and we're pretty comfortable there. With the Buffalo Bills, they have Stephon Diggs, obviously a top-tier receiver in the league, but Steve Smith did lean on the fact that they haven't had a viable slot receiver since, the days of having Cole Beasley out there. So there hasn't really been a solid number two to help out Stephon Diggs. The best that they've come to this in recent years has been Gabe Davis, which is very much so just a big play threat, right? You haven't seen him consistently exploit offenses in the short to intermediate games. He's kind of relied on bombs to really subsidize that offense for the Buffalo Bills. So you couple the fact that they haven't been able to, keep a run game going whatsoever, and that's to start off games, that's to finish, that's just to keep, the chains moving on offense. None of that. It's been pretty much a complete failure for them. Again, if you take out Josh Allen from the equation, and then two, you're having to rely heavily on a Stephon Diggs without another viable candidate stepping up to take place. And so they have Dalton Kincaid now, who you can use in a myriad of ways. You definitely love him more as a receiving option than kind of an all-around tight end. But you can move him over to the slot, do some creative things with him coming off, the line of scrimmage. But ultimately, nothing's proven there. So you're still kind of playing guessing games if you're the Bills. And so all of that to say, the defenses are what the defenses are. He used those reasonings to kind of dive into why he thinks the New York Jets will win week 1 against the Buffalo Bills. And obviously I am entitled to say I agree with him in this case. There's definitely more to this entire conversation. Of course, we have 1,000,001 previews and predictions out. We'll break it down a little bit more Monday. But I think when you take those at face value, it makes a ton of sense as why the Bills could have a tough day. Sauce Gardner matches up very well with the Stephon Diggs type talent. Gabe Davis versus DJ Reed, things lean in our direction. Their inability to have a rushing attack versus our front seven gives us the edge. And so it can be a long day for them, especially now that we do have Aaron Rodgers, who's capable of manufacturing offense at any point in time, right? Big plays, consistent chain-moving drives, getting offside plays, catching 12 men on the field, etc. So either way, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Is Steve Smith Sr. crazy here? Do the Jets just need to prove it before we start buying into the dream too much? Or, of course, as the Bills being the reigning champion, as Robert Saleh said, is still their throne to give up. Are the Bills being very underrated for once, even though they've won the division the last 3 years? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.